Tourism is not an easy question to answer. We know that on one hand, many people, there are many religions in this world. But on the other hand, there is a concept that there is actually one religion, Allah's faith, Allah's religion, which mankind has sort of distorted the messages and have come up with a different perspective on religion. So the questions we are trying to answer today is, how do you define religious pluralism? Why God should have a different religions? Does religious pluralism defy the concept that there is one truth out there? How do we define salvation? Because every religion offers salvation to its people. How do we define salvation in the light of religious pluralism? Would all religions lead to salvation? And what does the Quran accept religious pluralism? These are some of the questions you need to ask. And there may be other questions that we have not thought of. If there is, you can bring up in your discussions, and we'll be happy to hear them, So, just for simplicity's sake, table number 1 can take question number 1, and so on. But if you feel the table feels very strongly about a particular question as a consensus, you may want to tackle that question also, so that it's closer to your hearts. The idea is to bring up all the aspects of this topic. Okay? Dr. Bahmanpour?
Thank you. I think also question number 5 could be broken up into 2 questions, if you don't mind, Reza. Question number 5 to be broken, number 4, sorry, into 2 questions so that we have 1 question for each table. How do we define salvation in the light of religious pluralism? And then, would all religions lead to salvation? Would be another question.
That's fine.
Okay.
So we can break that.
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The idea of religious pluralism is about because we have different religions. Very simply, because we have different religions, we have plurality of religions, and therefore we have to think what would happen to all these people who follow different religions. Now, a very simplistic view would be that only one of these religions lead to salvation, and all others would go to hell or whatever. They wouldn't be saved. And even the question comes among one and the same religion. This hadith, which is oft quoted from the Prophet, that my ummah, my nation, would divide into 73 sects. And out of those 73 sects, only one is saved, and the 72 others would go to hell, is oft quoted, especially by Wahhabis and Salafis, saying that we are that one faith and all other 72 would go to hell. And it's really somehow annoying to think like that the majority of people, now even in one religion, one faith, the majority are going to go to hell, and only one very limited number of people would be saved, is annoying and raises lots of questions about the purpose of God about creation. So the idea has come about that, well, why should we think that plurality of religions is bad? And why should we think that plurality of religions would lead to different things? They may all lead to salvation. All religions may lead to salvation. So this is the idea coming from human analytic conscience. That's, okay, I'm born in a Sunni family, I'm born in a Shia family. There is no way for me, only probably one person out of the whole followers of religions may convert, may switch faith. whether among religions or inside the religions to different sects. And the reason is quite clear, because we are used to what we are taught, and we are brought up with the arguments which support what we believe in. And therefore it is not usually possible for us to switch faith. Now, should we say that those who are born in that one sect which will be saved are lucky ones, and those who are born elsewhere are unlucky ones? So what can we do about it? So the idea of religious pluralism comes about that, okay, we have a plurality of religions, and all these religions may lead to salvation. Now, that's good. Our conscience is a bit appeased, satisfied. However, saying that raises very, very difficult questions as well. Okay, is there only one truth out there? Because these religions are talking about different truths. I believe in one God. Other religions believe in different gods, plurality of gods. I believe in God defined by Islam. Christians believe in God, in Trinity of God. Whatever the meaning of that Trinity is, nowadays, of course, they're trying to somehow give it a different spin than the old idea of Father, Son, Holy Ghost, saying that these are three aspects or three perspectives of the same God. Anyhow, I mean, whatever meaning we give it, it's a different truth. So, is there one truth out there, or there are different truths which different religions try to reach to those different truths? It's one question. Now, accepting that there are different truths out there is very difficult. I mean, since the beginning of human dawn of human life on the earth, we have known this solar system, but we have known it in many different ways. Once we thought that earth is flat, once we thought that sun is going around the earth, but all these different understandings, did they really mean that there are different truths out there? Or there's one solar system which works the way quite independent of our understanding, our interpretation. We have given it different interpretations through the time. So this is, of course, more acceptable, that yes, there is one truth out there. And we understand one truth differently, we give different interpretations to that truth, and we try to seek paths. If we think that truth is God, we try to seek different paths to that truth. Now, another discussion which comes in religious pluralism is this: are all these paths equal? Do they all lead us to the same truth or to the same level of that truth? Are they equal or they are not equal? One very important trend of religious pluralism has been this sort of understanding that yes, all religions are equal. You have a pinnacle on the mountain, and you try to climb mountain from different directions, from different ways. One climbs it from this rocky sort of path, the other climbs it from a more sort of paved path, easier path, but at the end of the day, they all come to that one truth. And this would mean that it really doesn't matter which religion we believe in. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that if you believe in a religion, in a faith, then you sincerely follow it. And when you sincerely follow that faith, you reach to the truth, no matter whether you climb from this side of the mountain or the other side of the mountain. Now, this defies our understanding of method in everything. I mean, you may say that in reality it doesn't happen like that. I mean, if you want to move, for example, this camera from here, you may say we have different methods. One method is that I just blow at it, but it doesn't work. It is, of course, very tangible. But when it comes to untangible things, we may think that, yes, these methods may work equally. And if these methods work equally, why we somehow emphatically try to find a better method, the best method towards things all the time? And sometimes we may say, of course, all the paths which go in one direction may lead to the destination, but what if we are going completely against the direction? What if instead of climbing, we are going down? And we don't realize, because as I say, it's not tangible. It's something in our imagination, and we say, okay, we may just try this way. And in our physical world, we never say this, that any way, without contemplation, without analysis, without justification, we just follow. No, we always try to refine our methods, refine our ways to our means. We always try to do that in our physical world. Now, when it comes to a spiritual world, why should we say that we don't need any refinement of method? Why should we say that all methods would be equal? The reason why people think like that is that they think religious ideas and religious consequences, consequences in the spiritual world, are conventional, not real. You see, in the physical world, consequences are real. I either can move this or cannot move this, and I need a method for this. I either can invent this or cannot invent this, and need method. But they think in spiritual world things are very conventional. If you are sincere, God would reward you. If you are not sincere, God wouldn't reward you. You don't need to have a right method at all. Now, one very important question is here. Is this right? Do we not really need any method? Do we not really need any correct path to the truth? And any path, because it's conventional, anything anyone says and believes in is fine, is acceptable. So this is one idea of religious pluralism. The other idea of religious pluralism is that, no, of course, there is one truth. So the first word is there is no one truth. Anyone can find whatever is out there. There's not a focal point for truth. Truth is not something, a point that you arrive at. It's a vast sort of thing that people can understand different things from it. The second one was that you don't need a method to reach that truth. All methods are equally acceptable. The third level is that, no, of course, we believe in different methods. We believe in one truth out there. However, we say that if you try your own method, and if you are sincere, you will be saved. It comes the question of salvation. Not all religions are the same, because the method is important, so not all religions are the same. However, religions, because it is related very much to sincerity of the heart, and sincerity of the heart is part of the method. So what happens is that every sincere person in their faith, they can attain a level of salvation. Not, of course, right, everyone getting right in the same place, but they can attain a level of salvation. This is what we call inclusive idea of salvation, rather than exclusive idea of salvation. Exclusive idea of salvation says that you have to have the right aqidah absolutely, and it's only that right aqidah which leads you to salvation. If you deviate a little bit from that right aqidah, whether intra-religiously or inter-religiously, then of course you cannot be saved. There's no salvation. If you are not baptized, you go to hell. I mean, this was the very clear standard Christianity view In the past, now, of course, they are changing that view. But if you are not baptized, you go to hell. That's the only way for salvation. Now, here we say that no, of course, we don't say that there is you can reach salvation only if your aqidah is completely according to what I believe, for example. But there are different levels of salvation. If, for example, I want to go to that room, I may not reach quite to that room, but I may get close to it. And getting close to it may give me a better, for example, air, a fresher air. It's fine. I have that fresher air. I have not arrived there, but I have attained a certain level of fresh air. I can experience a certain level of fresh air. Now, different religions, based on what amount of truth they have in themselves and what kind of method they use to reach to that truth, may lead to different levels of salvation. In this way, we may say that, okay, majority of the people in the world may be saved eventually. Because the most important problem about the idea of religion is salvation. And why religious pluralism is introduced is because of that idea that it's not possible that most of the people are going to be not going to be saved. Majority should be saved, actually. So, yes, people can attain different levels of salvation. However, what extent of that, how much of that is unknown to us. Now, the sort of concept that religions usually have is that we are saved, others are destroyed, others will perish. قالت اليهود ليست النصارى على شيء وقالت النصارى ليست اليهود على شيء. The Christians say the Jewish have no right of salvation, have no access to the truth, and the Christians say the same thing about the Jews. Jews say the same thing about the Christians. And كذلك قال الذين لا يعلمون مثل قولهم. And among you are those ignorant ones who would say the same thing. Now, you would say the same thing amongst ourselves. وَقَالُوا لَنْ يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةِ. I think these verses are very telling in the Quran. It is bringing to our attention the idea of rigidity that we think about salvation. وَقَالُوا لَنْ يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارًا. They say, if you are a Christian, you enter paradise. This is what the Christians say. The Jews say, if you are a Jew, you enter paradise, in exclusion of everyone else. In exclusion of everyone else. So is this a tenable idea? وَقَالُوا لَنْ يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارًا تِلْكَ أَمَانِيُّهُمْ. These are ambitions. These are ambitions. Because I'm born a Jew, because I'm born a Christian, because I'm born a Muslim, because I'm born a Shia, it is my right to go to paradise. Why my right? Of course, because I've been told that this is the correct path, this is the correct method. So what about others who are told differently? The Quran rejects this idea by bringing us the example of previous nations. Do not be like them, of course. Do not think like them. And the irony is that exactly whatever the Quran criticizes about Jews and Christians, we follow the same path which should be criticized as well. Now, the questions which are here are, of course, very, very difficult questions to answer. But if, for example, it's not the case that only Muslims are saved. Of course, Muslims generally think that whoever is not Muslim would go to hell, only Muslims would go to paradise. And this is exactly what the Christians think, exactly what the Jews think. I'm talking about Abrahamic religions. I don't talk about other religions now. If that is the case, if only we Muslims are going to go to paradise, now what about our intra-differences? Sometimes the difference between two Muslims about the idea of God or hereafter or whatever, the difference between two Muslims is more than the difference between a Muslim and a Christian. And the difference between a Muslim and a Jew is more. You know, some Muslims think that God is like a bearded man sitting on a throne in the heavens. Now, is this closer to our idea? Or the God that Jews worship, for example? That is closer to our Shia idea about God. Or even the Christian idea about God, where they think God have different manifestations. Okay, we believe that God have manifestations on this earth as well. So it's very difficult to decide. Would just names be enough to lead someone to hell or to paradise? Or it is not names, it is mostly the belief, the act, and of course following the most correct, authentic method. The most authentic method. Which one is that? We know that in Islam we tolerate Ahlul Kitab. That means that we respect that there are some salvation for Ahlul Kitab. That is what it means when we tolerate Ahlul Kitab as Dhammis. It means that we believe that there is some salvation for them. So what do we believe about it? What do we believe about this? If this is the case, now, is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are they different religions? And if they are different religions, why God should have different religions for the same human being? Should we not question him that why have you sent different religions so that we differ with each other? This is another question. So that was just to open the sort of scope of thinking on the issue. And now, inshallah, everyone would ponder on these questions and give their answers. I don't know how long are we going to, if you please come and explain.
Yeah, okay. If we take about 20 minutes for to discuss the questions, and then each table will present, maybe it'll take 5 minutes each. So we have 7 tables, another 35 minutes. So we will have about an hour used up here. Then the idea would be Dr. Bahmanpour will, after hearing your comments, will try to summarize and bring out some of the salient points that he thinks are worthwhile. And we'll just have to play by ear how to best use our time. So essentially we have about 2 hours max. Is that okay? Yeah? Why don't you take question number 1 for table number 1? How is that? Keep it very simple, and so on. So this is table 1. You take question 1. Number 2.
Again,
Who is right or wrong? These are two different. Follow this. It's just about
bring your implementation, interpretation, bring us back. Is different.
There is a sense of refinement in whatever we do. You look at technology. Religion has been hijacked for political purposes.
Just go back to the earlier point. Human mind's understanding has developed over time, right? Society has become more and more complex, right? And this is why, I mean, you see people sort of say they come up with different interpretations, right?
And that was the last one that came, so we think that's the most recent message that's come in a refined way, maybe.
Most recent
In the last, yes.
And a guide coming and another book coming, I would look into the Christianity, not going beyond that. Same thing with the Muslims. The Christians
No, but a Christianity, the Bible says, I will send another guide.
guide, but the Christian, the Bible says.
Believe or not,
No, but that's not the Bible. So John and Matthew and Mark and these are not the Bible with Jesus. They've never met Jesus. Anybody who was with Jesus or lived when Jesus was alive did not write a single word.
One's goat scratches somebody else's goat's horn, there's a kafara punishment. But today, there's no one tells us if your car scratches somebody else's car, what's the how much should you pay? How do you solve it? That would be religion.
Different to regulate purposes.
Or carbon emissions. What should you do if somebody dumps pollution in the river? How do you?
Question was saying why God should have different religions to enable all human beings to get to the same destination through different paths. Through different paths.
I would say
So to enable
is to not accept that their belief is necessarily correct, or frankly that ours is necessarily correct, but to respect their right to have that belief and them to respect our right to have our belief. Well, no, not yet. Well, tolerance is the next one down. Tolerance goes to the actual practices within a faith. But I'm saying the very higher up concept of saying, listen, you're a Hindu, you're a Christian, I'm a Muslim. We all have different sets of beliefs, but we need to be able to coexist peacefully together. We need to coexist, and therefore I accept and respect, not accept, I respect your right to have your religion and conduct it the way you want to. Just as I would hope you will respect my right to my religion and my faith. That's what I think.
Assalamu alaikum. Our table had the question, how do we define religious pluralism to consider? I've not been able to sort of put everything down. Maybe I would do injustice to the table, but Bertrand Russell, the British philosopher, was saying that it is foolish for any one group, organization, or faith to claim the monopoly to truth. In other words, no one religion can really, that's his view anyway, can claim the monopoly to truth. In other words, truth is captured in different ways by many faiths. Therefore, definitely our table was of the view that yes, there is pluralism. How do we define pluralism? The spirit of pluralism, in our view, has best been captured in the surah Al-Asr. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Those who have faith, and it's not just the Muslims who have faith, those who believe in good deeds, those who believe in justice and equity, those who have patience, are the ones who have really earned their salvation. And again, it's not just the Muslims who can claim to have all these factors. I think one of the members of our table, in a light-hearted way, talked about Bob Hope, who said, I visit the mosque, I visit the temple, I go to the churches. I don't want to be faulted by any technicality. I want to get to heaven, and let no technicality prevent me from doing that. In other words, as far as this is gone.
That's it, we can hear you.
We can hear.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are trying to correct. In other words, as far as he was concerned, different faiths were mere technicalities. What the real faith is what is captured in that surah. We have set out in our chart here the multiple ways to get the truth. How do we get to the truth? The rituals, namaz, roza, hajj, zakat. This is strictly for the Muslims, obviously, because not all members of the faith follow these rituals. They have their own. But there are other deeds that apply to everybody. Good deeds, patience, justice, what is set out in the surah. Would the world be a boring place if there was only one faith? That was the view of one of the members at our table. What if everybody believed in the same thing? What if everybody practiced the same faith? What if it was winter throughout the year? Wouldn't the world be a very boring place? By the surah, wal asr. In other words, whoever practices faith, whoever does good deeds, whoever believes in justice, fairness, and whoever has patience. Anyone who is a believer of that is a believer of a faith. It doesn't matter which faith you believe in or belong to. In other words, that in itself captures your religious pluralism. Now, I may have gone about it in a roundabout way, but if you have a better way of doing it, when you have your opportunity, you could do that.
What he means actually is, by religious pluralism, do you mean that we have different truths outside first? Secondly, if we have one truth and we have different methods to reach that truth, are all those methods equal? Or there's a difference between the methods? Or if we believe that there are different religions, do we accept all of them as right in their own accord? Or we say they are wrong, but we tolerate them? This is another meaning of religious pluralism. Like, for example, we tolerate Jews and Christians based on Islamic belief, but we don't believe that they are right. Okay? Now, salvation is a different issue. But religious pluralism, this is a very difficult term, isn't it? Religious pluralism sometimes means that we just tolerate other religions. And sometimes means that we do not tolerate anyone, we just kill them. Okay? So, which one of these meanings you have in mind when you talk about Surah Al-Asr? That's what is said, probably.
The Surah Al-Asr is very clear. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. All of these. Now, not Muslims alone have faith. People practicing other religions also have faith. The truth, what is the truth? Some say God is the truth. The truth has many interpretations. The question is, which interpretation is right? And who decides that this is right and that is wrong?
So we believe there is one truth out there.
There is one truth out there. There's a different interpretation of that truth. Different religions have their different interpretations of the truth, and they believe that that is the truth. Is it?
Yeah.
Now, the religious pluralism that we are talking about is the pluralism of the faiths that are out there. There is Christianity, there is Buddhism, there is Islam, there is Judaism, and there is Taoism, and there is Shintoism, and there is whatever. These are the pluralistics of the faiths that are out there. And we are saying, yes, let it be out there. These are the various plurality of faiths that are practiced by the various human beings. That is the pluralism that we believe in.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody. So our question was, why should God have different religions? And the first conversation, the first discussion we had, we said that we would try to focus on the Abrahamic religions. I mean, 20 minutes is too short a time. I requested 5 hours, I wasn't given. So 20 minutes is a very short time to discuss and dwell into all the existing religions that are there. So we kind of focused on the first 3 religions that we are kind of conversant with. And in the Quran, there's a good overlap of the message in the Quran from Bible and the Torah. So we focused on the Abrahamic religions. And we said that why should God have different religions? So we had a struggle. We struggled that with a question. We wanted to change the question: are there really different religions, or are these all man-made? But we stayed on the path. We said that this is what we will accept it, and we'll accept that yes, God has created different religions. So the question is why. One thing was to enable us to reach the truth. You know, Dr. Bahmanpour said that there is a truth right on the top of the mountain. There is the apex, and there are different ways to reach to the truth. And we said that if you just replace the word religion with a path, let's say, why has God created different paths to the truths? So if this is the path to the truth, so these are just the different paths to get to the truth, and that truth is the God's truth, the universal truth, which is one truth. It also came to a point where we say that, you know, God decided to do this because over a period of time, if you look at Judaism, which came 3,000 plus years back, and then between Judaism and Christianity, mankind had drifted away from the message. And then after Christianity, mankind had again drifted from the main message. So the purpose of bringing the messengers was to hit the reset button to allow us to come back on the right path. And then that's why the Quran, which was revealed to us, was the final book of guidance, so that if there is any shape or form we would drift away from that path, it would put us back on the right path. So that was to hit the reset button. I came on the point number 4, which is the book of guidance. So there were books of guidance that also came with these messages, you know. So we had the Bible, we had the Quran. Now, unfortunately, Bible, there's so many different versions of Bible, we know that. But the Quran is as it was revealed. So the integrity of the Quran has been protected. The other thing is the guidance came as a piecemeal, you know. God has said, Allah has said that when He revealed Islam, He says, today I have perfected, and that's the translation we have, I have perfected the religion. So we had a little bit of discussion that when you say I have perfected the religion, meaning the previous religions were not perfect, or did he mean to say I have completed the religion today? You know, so based on the evolution of men's thinking, this is the level of religion that was brought down. So when the thinking had reached a point where Allah decided that mankind is now ready for the Islam, that's when He revealed the complete religion. And then there's also God's promise to guide everybody. You know, when I put this underline under everybody, you know, we had a discussion, you know, there are tribes in the Amazon. Are they left not guided? I don't think so. If God has said that, you know, I have promised to guide everybody, there's probably some guidance over there too. And the last one I just added because there's so many isms out there. You know, are all these isms from Allah or from God? Some of them are man-made created. So that's our discussion here today. We focused on the question here, may not answer whether we have the pluralism addressed, everything, but this is basically the question that was given to us, and this was an attempt on our part to answer that question. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Assalamu alaikum. Our question was question number 3. Does religious pluralism defy the concept that there is one truth out there? We had a very lively discussion, but we started by trying to actually define the word religious pluralism. Not that we did any better than you did, and we certainly didn't have the inspiration that you did to draw from a surah. But nevertheless, we started with that in mind to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and then try and discuss the actual question as to whether it defies the concept of one truth out there. So our discussion took us as follows. In terms of defining religious pluralism, after some discussion, we came to an understanding that it's a concept, not yet a reality. It's a concept that says that there are different truths. There are different ways to getting to that, different truths and different beliefs out there, and that we have not yet been able to put that into practice. Because while the idea that everyone has their own truth and that we need to respect each other's truths in order to coexist peacefully in this world, we haven't got there yet. Now, as we try to respect each other's truths, we also need to make sure that we're not compromising our own truth in the process. Okay, so that was a very difficult one to start off with, but that was where we kind of got to as far as what religious pluralism is. Then we went into saying, okay, so this truth, does the fact of religious pluralism defy the fact that there is this truth there? And in our opinion was the absolute truth, if there is one, has to be one. And if all religions were to lead to the same truth, then why are we only comfortable in our truth alone? Okay, so that was a little bit of a dissonance between us, or some healthy disagreements there. We noted the fact that when Islam came to the Prophet, for instance, he was surrounded by the age of Jahiliyyah, of paganism. But at the same time, it was a pluralistic society, because in that same society there were Jews and there were Christians and there were Sabians and everybody else coexisting. And so when he brought that truth of Islam, it was more with the mind of bringing social justice to the world. It was a time when people's rights were being usurped, women were not being treated well, etc., etc., etc. And so that was the opportune moment for him to bring Islam and its redeeming qualities to society. And that's what happened. So finally, wrapping it up, oh, actually, one more disagreement that came up was one of our distinguished panelists said he didn't believe that there was necessarily an absolute truth. And the reason he stated for that was because of the vastness of the universe, because the vastness of knowledge and wisdom makes it very difficult for us to get to any one specific, final, and absolute truth. Because we're still learning, we're still absorbing, we're still finding out new things, and so it's hard to say that there's necessarily one truth. But anyway, where we concluded is that the truth that we're defining here, or the truth that is here, that where we say it's defining the concept that there is one truth out there, is related to humanity, to social justice, and not to any one religion. But each religion has its own methodology, its path, to use an earlier group's word, to get to that truth. That's it. Thank you.
So the question that our table was discussing about was called, how do we define salvation in the light of religious pluralism? So we look up the dictionary definition of deliverance, and it means, salvation, and it means deliverance from sin and its consequences. And then we looked at an ayat from Quran in Surah Anbiya, which is Surah number 21, verse 94. And the translation of it says, so whoever does righteous deeds while he is a believer, no denial will there be for his efforts, and indeed we of it are recorders. The important thing to note here is Allah does not specify any one religion. He didn't say if you're a Muslim, if you're a Jew, if you're a Christian, or any of the other religions whereby 124,000 prophets were brought about to deliver the message. What we understand from this surah, the way we interpret it, is that religion was brought as based on humanity. It had the core values of humanity: treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, do not steal, do not lie, the basic foundations of being a good human, or akhlaq. And what happened is that Allah brought this message with a prophet, and some people believed, some did not, and went astray. So there was the need, like previous groups mentioned this as well, for Allah to bring back the message. And what Allah did was that He brought back the message, sometimes with another book, and Islam is the one and only religion that recognizes all these other books, Quran being the only one that has not been changed. But the universal message of humanity impermeated throughout all these religions. And going back to this surah, we stress that what Allah is saying here, that yes, there is salvation for you, and what you choose or how you choose to attain that salvation, there is no one way. As long as you are a believer, And it doesn't specify believer of what religion, but that you believe in whatever religion was brought to you at the time that you were born. Because remember, we do not have a choice when we are born. We could have been born at the time of one of the other 123,000 prophets. We just happen to be lucky to be born when Prophet Muhammad, or we are lucky to have received the message of Prophet Muhammad and being born into the religion of Islam. And fortunately, we chose to follow it. And that's how we interpret that.
So we're answering the question, do all religions lead to salvation? So our answer was yes, they do. The point is that Iman is the key thing and religion is secondary. So I have a quote from Imam Jafar Sadiq here. It's on my phone, I'll read it to you. So somebody mentioned that I told Abu Abdullah, please inform me about Islam and faith, whether they are different. He said, faith shares Islam, but Islam, faith being Iman. Faith shares Islam, but Islam does not share faith. He said, Islam is to witness that there is no God but Allah and to approve of the Prophet, it could save the lives of people. It talks about marriage and inheritance, and people's appearance is based upon Islam. But faith is guidance. What exists in the heart is among the attributes of Islam as well as the deeds that it results from. Faith is one level higher than Islam. It shares Islam in its public appearance, but Islam does not share faith in its inside, even if they are united in their speech. Islam saves lives, results in truth, and governs marriages, but the reward is based on the faith. So that's kind of the key point, that Iman is what leads to salvation. Islam is just the thing that regulates our lives. And the purpose of different religions, I think we agree with what the other people have said, that they have common elements, so they are really all the same. Allah has only revealed one religion to all communities. What makes Islam different is, it's just another community under Muhammad. And most religions have common elements, the exception being some of the pagan religions which believe in idols and stuff, because those are just man-made stories and myths. And if a new religion came today, we would have different rules to regulate our lives today. So Islam was revealed for the people of one time, and the rules, are entirely appropriate for people there. As for people today, we need a whole different set of laws regulating us, which sometimes we don't even have. Like in a traffic accident, how much kafara should you pay to the person whose car you scratched? Whereas Islam tells you, if your goat scratches another goat, what the kafara is, that's supposed to be in the Sharia. But your car's, nothing to say about that. So that's religion, and that's secondary. But Iman is the key thing. So yes, all religions can lead to salvation as long as it leads to Iman. Okay.
Our question was question number 5. Does the Quran accept religious pluralism? So in the Quran, chapter 42, ayat 14, it clearly says, as he prescribed for you the religion, which he enjoined on Noah, and which we have revealed to thee, and which we enjoined on Abraham and Moses and Jesus, saying, remain steadfast in obedience and not divided therein. Hard upon the idolaters is that to which thou callest them. Allah chooses for himself who he pleases and guides to himself, him who turns to him. So we said yes, we believe that the Quran accepts religious pluralism. Also, there has to be sincerity. As Dr. Bahman told us, if you try one method and you are committed to it, it can lead to salvation.
Now, how do you define religious pluralism? Oh, I said it right this time. I think what was agreed was that we don't have different truths out there. Now, one of the tables talked about different truths. I think they were talking about different understandings of truth, rather than different. By different truth, we mean that, for example, do we have a solar system here, or we have something else that we, for example, do we have one solar system or two solar systems in our environment? Now, if we say, well, there is no one truth. Some believe there is one solar system, others believe there are two solar systems, and both of them have actually arrived at the truth. It's not possible. It's either this one or that one. So, yes, yes.
Is it possible that today we know there is one solar system, but in future we may come across another?
No, you are talking about, again, about knowledge. You see, there is either one solar system out there or more, okay? Yeah. It doesn't change. Right. The truth doesn't change, all right? However, our knowledge is limited today, and then we can reach more knowledge later on. So the truth out there is one. Our understanding of that truth is different. And I think if we have to first agree on this, because now we want to talk about God. Okay, God is one truth. God cannot be different. People may depict him differently, or may understand and believe in him in different ways, but he is one. We cannot, he's one, either one or many. Anyhow, we cannot be both one and many. Because some people believe he's one, some people believe he's many. It cannot be both. It's either one or many. So truth is one out there. Is there any doubt or concerns about this?
Yeah, but some people, what is that? Some Christianity believe that Christ is the Son of God.
Yeah.
It's not a universal belief of God, right?
This chair.
No. Again, you are talking about belief. You see, we are confusing between two things, between ontology and epistemology. Ontology is what is out there. Epistemology is what is in our mind. Okay? Epistemology deals with what is in our mind, knowledge. Ontology deals with what is out there. What is in our mind is very different. We believe that God has a son, for example, or he doesn't have a son, or the angels are his daughters, for example, or we believe differently. This is our belief. What about reality out there? Can there be a God who doesn't have a son and a God who has a son, and is one God? Is it possible? It's not possible. So that's why we say the truth is one. Yes.
Okay. Well, one second. Sorry. Maybe in order to just to regulate this, do you want to complete your comments on a question and then we open to the floor? Otherwise, you'll be disturbed every few minutes. Everybody will have a question in the middle.
I don't mind.
Comfortable?
I don't mind. I mean, interaction, because interaction would be somehow.
Okay. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hands, because
then we have to moderate. Yes.
So Rahel first.
When you speak about the one truth, and you say that is the one truth which we understand to be God, what about those people who believe that God does not exist?
Well, okay.
So for them, the truth,
again, you are thinking about the belief.
No.
Okay.
They don't believe. They don't have belief. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So they say the reality out there is only this world. There is no God. Okay. There is the reality. You see, we believe that there is a God.
Yes.
They believe that there is no God.
Yes.
But out there cannot be both a God and there cannot be not a God. Reality is one, okay? There is either God or not God, okay? It cannot be both. Now, when it comes to our minds, it is somehow differentiated into different things. But reality out there is one. Is that clear?
Which is our reality.
No. We are not talking about our or them. We are just talking about reality out there.
Excuse me.
Ontologically, reality out there is one.
Okay, one second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the question for table number one was, how do you define religious pluralism? So I was wondering if you could come up with a sentence like this. Religious pluralism means so and so. Do we have that answer yet?
There is no one definition for religious pluralism. We have to define what we think religious pluralism is. As I said before, some say religious pluralism is there because there are different truths out there, or because there is no truth at all out there, so there's only things which are in our mind. Or it is out there because of different understandings. This is another definition of religious pluralism. Or there are different understandings, but all of them are valid. This is another definition of religious pluralism. Or there are different understandings, but only one of them are valid, and we tolerate others. See, this is another definition of religious pluralism.
So I could say that religious pluralism means the existence of different realities or different truths.
Realities? Different realities?
No, different truths.
Different truths.
So what
We're
is
just trying to say there are not there aren't different truths out there.
Okay. All right. One second. I have to go by line. I'm writing the names of the hand that I see first. I saw Kubra wanted to say something, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
You see, the problem with saying that there is only one truth, I think half of the people in this room might be disagreeing with you. There is concrete, and then there is faith, which is a little abstract. Things concrete, there is one truth. For example, there is one solar system. We have ways of measuring it. We can actually concretely say there's one solar system. But the problem with belief is that you can't, because a Christian's belief, no matter how much we say there is only one truth.
Again, you are talking about belief, not truth.
Yeah, but their truth is what it is.
You say there is only one solar system, we accept it, okay? Now, what about God? Is there out there some reality as God, or is it a sort of fluid reality depending on our belief? Which one?
Well, that's what I think it would be depending on who you are and what your belief is.
So there is no God, it's already in our mind.
Well, that atheists believe there is no God, and that is their reality, right? That is their truth.
No. The truth is not in their mind. The truth is that out there there is no God. Okay, it's only the universe. Okay? This is the truth. Now, this may be the truth out there. The truth out there may be that there is a God. Now, but that God is not something fluid which changes with our belief. He is one thing out there. Now, we may have different beliefs and understandings of him. Or he may not be there at all, as the atheists say. But you cannot say, for atheists, God is not there. For us, he is there. It's not possible. Is it?
I think it is, because we haven't been able to see God. We haven't been able to, it's scientifically, we haven't been able to, it's not concrete. That's why.
Okay.
It is.
So you see, you think that a non-concrete thing...
please, can you have attention quiet, please?
Has created a concrete universe. A non-concrete thing. A non-concrete thing has created a concrete universe. So the universe is more real than God. Is this what you mean?
In my mind, because...
Again, you are talking about your mind. You see?
Exactly.
Yeah. We are confused.
Can we move to the next part? Anis was the raise his hands. Anis, please. Anis,
isn't it?
1 second.
So,
I'll give you a chance.
Thank you. So just expanding on Brother Yusuf's question, he said religious pluralism means ... And the answer I heard was it's got several definitions. So my question is, I as a Muslim, if I believe in pluralism, does it make me a less Muslim or a non-Muslim? Versus somebody who believes that there is no pluralism, is he a better Muslim than I am?
No, this is what we will discuss later, what Quran or Islam think about pluralism. No, of course not. We are now talking about different definitions of pluralism, and then we come to how Islam, which definition is accepted by Islam, for example, or by us, or which definition we can agree among ourselves. But of course, no, it doesn't make us less believer, more believer. Yeah.
So the definition that we agree on, that may not necessarily be the definition that resonates with the main thinking of Islam or the correct Islam, or how is that going to be?
Well, what is Islam? Islam is what we understand, isn't it? So we have to support whatever we believe in by evidence, by argument. If we make the Quran to be the basis of our argument, then we have to support it by the verses of the Quran. If we say, no, it's only rational thinking which should support our definition and our views, then we have to bring good rational arguments. And it is in this way that we can say, okay, this is what Islam believes in pluralism, for example. We don't have a fixed definition of pluralism. We don't have a fixed definition of pluralism in Islam as well. So we have to work it out. That's why we are here. We want to work it out together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sheni, excuse me, Hussein.
Sorry, are you convinced about mind and outside? Or you are still think that God is something very fluid and it's in our mind? Oh, okay.
All right. We'll have to deal with that one.
Okay.
I think the biggest difference is that belief is changeable. Faith is very difficult to change. That's why there's not so many conversions, because it's a bigger pain. When you want to change a faith, oh my God, this is a big pain, it's hell or heaven. Belief is fluid. And I think that that's where we are getting little entwined into between belief and faith. Because belief is changeable at any time you want, if you have enough conviction on it. And that's just my comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Now, so we may not agree on this, but I say what I think is that pluralism should not mean that there are different realities outside. Pluralism only talks about the way we understand things or the way we believe in things. And therefore, when we want to give a definition of religious pluralism, we should say that it is either acknowledging or tolerating other beliefs or other faiths about God. Because religion talks about God. It is the most important thing. And of course, we may have pluralistic views about reality or about in philosophy, but when we talk about religious pluralism, we are talking about God. And therefore, we may say, yes, there are different understandings, different paths, different faiths in God, which we either acknowledge them to be equally correct and effective, or we acknowledge that only one of them is correct and effective, and we tolerate others. These are two different types of religious pluralism. Now, about Surah Al-Asr. No, this is a very, very good inspiration which is brought into the idea, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Man is in loss, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Amanu in what? In what? In Islam? In Quran? In the Prophet?
In the truth.
No, this is your explanation. This is your interpretation, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, it may not mean that. It may mean those who believe in your message, O Prophet of Islam. Human beings are in loss except those who believe in your message. Okay? Because truth. No, because you say believe in truth. Okay? Where do you get that truth? Other than prophets. When you talk about God, okay? Other than prophets. So it means those who believe in you. Because you are teaching them what God is. We cannot.
One prophet is 114,000.
Now we come to that, okay? I think we are just continuing reducing number of prophets from 124,000 to 123,000 to 114,000.
My error.
Okay, no, I'm joking. Sorry, I have this sense of humor. I have to suppress it. Anyhow, so you say those who believe in truth. course, everyone thinks that they believe in truth, isn't it? Their truth.
The truth.
Their truth.
No.
Hmm. Their truth. Okay. How can you prove that we believe in the truth, and Christians believe in the truth, and atheists believe in the truth? Huh?
Everybody has their own interpretation.
No, again, you are talking about interpretations. See? That means there is no difference what we believe in, isn't it? There's no difference at all. You do whatever you want. You behave whichever way you want. As long as you believe in it, it saves you. Would anyone agree with this? Yes. Oh, sorry.
One of the speakers mentioned very clearly that it's a question of iman. If you're being honest to yourself, maybe you're looking at your conscious in terms of deciding what to do or whom to believe in, and get that sense of comfort that you're not straying from the path, or you're not committing any crime. I mean, you're not looking at evil either in thought, word, and deed. And that's what comes to me as the definition of iman. And what our colleague had said is, nobody has a choice of birth. You are born in different religions. It just happens that we are born in this era and in this community. But does that mean that everybody born in other communities is condemned to hell or something of that sort? And the other speaker mentioned that, look, I mean, if I were to convert my religion, I would be amongst the exception rather than the rule. So I would be in an absolute minority, and I would become a pariah in both my community as well as the other community which I'm going to join. So, I mean, where do I go?
Dr. Bahmanpour, can I bring in one point here about, is the truth, as long as the truth reflects reality, is what truth is. Because if truth does not reflect reality, then what is the truth?
By truth, we mean reality, actually.
Reality.
This is what I mean by truth. Reality.
But from actual experience. Experience has to prove at the end of the day that this truth that we are believing in reflects true reality.
No. Again, you see, we are confusing between what we believe and what we think and the reality. We come to what we believe and what we think, okay? What we think about reality may be absolutely wrong. Or what everyone in this world thinks about reality may be absolutely wrong. But the reality doesn't change. The reality is out there. It is not affected by how we see it. It's not affected by how we think about it or how we believe in it. Now, there was one thing at the beginning you raised. I forgot now. At the beginning of your talk, apart from faith and conversion.
You're born in every religion. Human beings are born
in every. Yeah. Okay, we come to that. That's a different issue. Now, you know, I think mostly.
You want to come in?
No, please. I think I finally understand what you're trying to say, and it might help other people. I'm not sure. So what you're saying is, the reality is, this is a peanut.
Yeah.
No matter which way you look at it, it is a peanut.
Even if you think that it's an elephant, it's a peanut.
It's a peanut, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
That truth is a reality.
Yeah.
You can, like, this peanut cannot be anything else but a peanut. So that truth, everybody looking at that truth should only be able to see one thing, the truth.
Well, we may not be able to see that one truth in the same way, but that is the peanut.
That's the reality.
Thank you. Would you like to change seats? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. You know, the focus is here on good actions, good deeds. But the verse talks about two things, faith and good actions. So if I have only good actions without faith, is that acceptable? I mean, if I'm just, if I'm charitable, but I do not believe in God at all. Okay, The verses, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, they do good and have faith. Therefore, faith in religion, faith is a very, very important factor. You cannot say because people are charitable or just or good, they will be saved, unless they have that connection with God. Suppose I believe that there are two gods out there, and I am very sincere, and I try my best to be a good person, and always try to publicize this idea of two gods out there. For example, one god of evil, one god of good, like the Zoroastrians as it's attributed to them. Later on, of course, the deviation of Zoroastrianism. Now, am I equal to someone who believes in one God, which is the reality? Say, if one God is reality, am I equal to him? Are we both on the same boat, or we are not? So there should be some difference. There should be some difference. Now, the difference comes here. You say it is not conceivable that because I'm born in a family which has a different view of reality, which happens to be wrong. Okay, someone else is born in a different family which is following a path which happens to be right. Okay, it's not in our hand, it's chance. Okay, by chance I'm born in this family and someone else is born in the other family by chance. Now, what do you think would be the eventual destiny of each one of us? I am following a path which leads to salvation, and the other one, without his choice, following a path which leads to perdition. Okay? Like, for example, someone who's born in a mushrik family, so to speak. So, what are your thoughts on this? Your thoughts?
Let's get in order first. Who is the first one to see? Okay, Mubaraka first one. Who is the next one? Sorry, Mubaraka is one. Who else? Bashir? Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's get the first one.
Okay. We do believe that niyat is very important. And even if I say I wasn't a Muslim and I didn't believe in God, but we also are saying that niyat is very important. So long as I'm doing the right things, I'm striving to be a good human being, and I can't believe that God would say, okay, because you didn't believe in me, you're in trouble.
What if that path, the wrong one, tells you that you have to bury the daughters born to you? We have to bury them alive.
Exactly.
I mean, if that is within my belief system,
yes,
and I believe that is the correct path, so I'm doing, because as you were saying earlier, we don't have the big picture. So according to our knowledge, whatever our knowledge is, we are following the correct path honestly and sincerely. So surely, then if niyat is that important, then we can't be made, or we won't be penalized for it.
Won't be penalized. So you see, we have to differentiate between two things: whether we arrive at a right destination, or we are excused if we are not arrived. These are two very important things that we have to distinguish. You see, this is what the Quran calls mustaz'afun, those who didn't have any access to the right path. They were weak to have access. So the Quran says they are excused, okay? But it doesn't say that they have the same, all of them are right, because they were trained, educated like that, or they were born like that. But there are some people who are excused for what they do, and some people who are following the right path. Now, when we come to different religions, for example, a Christian. Now, if I believe firmly that Quran is the correct path, What would I think about a Christian who sincerely follows his path or her path? I think that they are excused in what they do, not that they are right in what they do or right in what they believe. I believe that I have to pray 5 times to the Lord. A Christian doesn't do that. Now, I say they are excused, not they are right. They don't get the effect of these 5 times prayer that I receive. But although they don't get it, but they are excused. Is this a satisfactory explanation? No. Okay.
1 second. I think Bashir had a point for that.
Basically, my point was if a person was born in a mushrik family.
Yeah. But if a person was born in a mushrik family, but he still followed the other aspects of the surah, good deeds, justice and equity, patience, that he would still receive salvation.
Salvation is different. Let's put salvation aside now.
Okay.
However, what we are talking about is that, you see, you are absolutely, and this is usually what comes to our mind. We absolutely exclude the concept of God from religion and make it to be instructions for good behavior in this life. Can we do that? Can we say religion is here just to teach us good behavior? And even if you don't believe in God, you are a good person if you have good behavior. I think the gist of religion first and foremost is belief in God.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it?
That's right.
So if someone is mushrik and follows the standards of good value, good behavior, would we say that he is a good believer, for example?
I think the difference is whether he's mushrik by choice or by virtue of the fact that he was born.
Again, you are talking about being excused or not. Being excused or not. You see, the difference is, when I say they are excused, I believe in a real path to God. And if someone doesn't follow it, knowing that this is the true path, they are not excused. Okay, they don't deserve salvation.
But the person who's born in the mushrik family doesn't know.
So he's excused. You see, to be excused is different from being right. From, okay, he's following his own path, is equal to my path. Isn't it?
To be excused from what?
Excused from punishment. God would not punish him, okay? He's excused. He has an excuse in not following the right path, okay? He has an excuse here. But it doesn't mean that because he doesn't know about the right path, he's also following the right path. It doesn't mean that.
Okay, let's move on. Ashik, you have one. Ashik, you had a point.
So confused, eh?
The question...
I think you have to prepare lots of lunch because people get hungry when they discuss.
Yeah. And I haven't had my say yet after this one.
The question you posed to us was regarding a Muslim person who believes in the Quran and believes in Allah and believes in everything else, and believes so much that it is 100% correct. And he looks at the Christianity and other religions and he so said he's excused. What about if you change your shoes and said you are now a Christian, let's say for the other guy, how does he view you?
Exactly, the same way, okay?
So you agree
I
with
say a Christian, if the Christian believes that what he is following is truth, is reflection of truth in his mind, then he would think that if he is very generous and kind, he would say that we are excused. Otherwise, he said we go to hell, okay? Now, if they are generous and kind, they say that we are excused. So I'm talking about the way of thinking. I'm not talking which religion is right, which one is wrong. I say if there is a correct path to God, and if there are deviations from that correct path, then we should say that, okay, if I firmly think that this is the right path, if I am good-hearted, I would say others are excused. Otherwise, I say others would go to hell. So this tolerance, thinking that other people are excused, gives us a sort of a broader scope of salvation that we will talk about later, inshallah.
1 second.
Essentially, can I finish it? Sorry.
Sorry.
Essentially, I can about tolerance of other religions and everything else. Essentially, you're talking about agree to disagree and let Allah knows best.
Well, Allah knows best in the sense that if you have doubt about what you are following, then there's no difference if you follow this religion or the other religion. Why you follow this religion? And why you so zealously follow Shiism rather than Sunnism? Now, the point is we believe that there is certain truth in this. I mean, these things should be somehow worked out with discussion. That's why the Quran, you see, the forefront of discussions of the Quran are with Christians and Jews. Why? Because they believed in God, they believed in the same faith, however, they deviated, okay, according to the Quran. That's why the Quran tries to argue with them that you have to come to this path rather than to that path. And this means that there is a right path, and then we try to understand it better or understand what that right path is, and then try to convince others. I mean, I'm sure all of you would like to convert other people here to Islam. Why? Because you think it's right. Because, well, if you don't, if you don't, that means all faiths are equal to you. There's no difference. That means that I'm born like this, I follow this, they're born like that, I follow that. That is a philosophy of religion, of course, as well. Yeah.
Is it 99% or 98% of us follow the religion because we're born on that religion?
Yes, but why you are so...
And how many of us really researched about other religion to say what they...
Again, you see, you are confusing between two levels of discussion. You see, I follow this, I'm born to this faith, but I follow this because I believe it's right, not because I'm born in this faith, okay? Now, what I think about others who are born in other faiths, I say, okay, they are excused because they don't know about my truth, isn't it? Now, if you really think that you follow this faith because you are born into it, I think you can say, okay, why should I follow this one? My friend is a Christian, let me turn into Christianity. Or my friend is a Jew, or let me turn to, it's all equal. So we have to differentiate between two aspects. If we think that this is correct and others are excused, or if we think that there is no difference, I follow this because I'm born into this. Now, how many of you follow this faith thinking that it is not the right path, but you follow it only because you are born into it? How many of you are doing that? No.
We can, Dr. Bamba, we can do a survey later because because this will create a bigger problem. Mohsin, excuse me, Mohsin, your next turn, please.
Now, remember, we are only on the first question.
I know.
We have to.
We'll have to continue this afternoon, maybe. Okay, let's go here.
Get on with the other questions.
Yeah. Mike, Sheikh, thank you. My question may have been partly answered by what you just meant, and I like what you said is, instead of always classifying as who is right and who is wrong, I like the idea of I think I'm right because I've researched. Let me use the word, I'm confident in what I believe in because I have studied it, and the others are excused. I really like that paradigm, because my question a few minutes earlier, but it may not even have any relevance anymore, is I'm beginning to find some trouble in this right and wrong and salvation and non-salvation, because my question is going to be based on some assumptions. The assumption is that we are Muslim, and we understand the doctrinal interpretation of, oneness of God and shirk and so on and so forth. And my understanding is that polytheism, shirk, also means engaging in actions that are exclusively for God. God has no partner, his business is his. So if his business is to judge, and we're starting making judgments sitting here, who is going to have salvation or not, I wonder then, by our own definition, are we not engaging in acts of shirk by doing business that is supposed to be exclusively his?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just conscious of time. It's 12:20 at the moment. I was planning to... Oh, sorry. Okay. You wanted to comment on this point?
No, that's right. I agree with you. I mean, God would judge who will be saved. The only thing is that we have to allow in our belief system, because most religious people do not allow in their belief system for salvation of others. They don't, especially Christianity. Of course, the traditional Christianity, they would not allow. And traditional Muslims, they would not allow for salvation. And traditional Shi'is do not allow for salvation of Muslims, or other Muslims. So what we have to make sure of is that we should have a theory of salvation which would include others. Then we leave it to God. Okay, it's not our business. Alhamdulillah, we are not going to judge. God is going to judge who is saved.
Okay, if I could just make a couple of points from my perspective is this. You talked about that Allah will excuse you for being ignorant, essentially speaking. But isn't that, the point is, at the end of the day, you may be excused, but whatever you believe ignorantly can lead you to suffering from actual experience. Yes. Is that the final test, whether your faith is correct or what you believe in proper teachings? Because experience of your belief at the end of the day is the final criteria. Can you comment on that?
Absolutely. I think to answer that question, we have to bring one other idea, and that is, okay, we believe Islam is the correct path. Okay, why? Do we really know what Islam is? Have you deeply and thoroughly studied the Quran and know what the Quran says? No. So in this respect, we are like others, like people of other faiths. We just say, okay, we are born in a Muslim family, but we don't have access to the true path yet. The good thing here, what you raised actually brought this to my mind. You see, we may be born Muslim, Shia or Sunni, but it doesn't mean that we have access to the real truth of Islam or real truth of Shiism. And that is why the Quran says, okay, if you follow a book, superficially understand it and follow it, like for example, Ahlul Kitab follow their own books, it's fine. But if you want to deeply study, of course, Bible would not sufficient. This is what the Quran says, would not be sufficient for you. You have to come to the Quran. This is the main truth. However, sorry, what was the question again?
The question is that if you can be excused by Allah, but that doesn't help
suffering.
you. Suffering is the key problem.
Yeah. Many of us Muslims also would suffer because we don't have access to the depth of Islam. So in this respect, we are similar to others, similar to Jews, similar to Christians, similar to others, because we don't actually have access to the depth of it. That's why we are always encouraged to learn more knowledge, to practice more, so that we get the benefit of it. Now, suffering is general for us because we do not follow the path correctly. But those sufferings are there to somehow complement our understanding here, and at the end of the day, we would be somehow recipient of enough knowledge and wisdom to enter paradise. Because paradise needs a minimum requirement of wisdom. Otherwise, in paradise, we would be like mad people. Like here, we have people, insane people. Insane people cannot be allowed in paradise. There is a requirement of wisdom. And that wisdom is attained through what we do in this world, what process we go in Barzakh, and especially on the Day of Judgment, and also how we have perceived the truth and followed it. We may not have followed the truth 100% here, but we may go through certain things which would compensate for it. Now let me bring this concept of Sirat. Okay. We say that Sirat is a bridge over the hell, and people should pass over it and go to paradise. Now they say some people pass it like a lightning. That means they are already they have already acquired the prerequisite to enter paradise, so they quickly go. Some people go, like, for example, walking people on it very slowly. Some people have to wait there for, say, for example, 2,000 years, 3,000 years. They cannot pass. And they say on each stage of Sirat, there are different things. One of those stages is Salat, your connection with God. Now, I, as a Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, or whatever, I have not been able to establish that connection with God, which is the prerequisite for entering, for acquiring that wisdom to enter paradise, okay? They say you stay there for 1,000 years. If you have been sincere here, if you have done certain good things, then that 1,000 year that you stay there would somehow make you ready, enough connection with God that you can enter paradise. Then from that stage you go to another stage, which is charity, for example. You have not been enough charitable. Now, we have Muslims who have not been enough charitables. We have Christians who have been very charitable. Okay, those Christians who have been charitable would pass quickly. Those Muslims who have not been charitable would stay there for 1,000 years to gain that. There are lots of stages, okay? But, and eventually, of course, many people will be saved. But the issue is that would that mean that all paths in this world is equal? No, because if you really practice what is told to, instructed by religion, you don't need to wait there for those stages. And then after those stages, there's not one place in paradise. There are infinity of grades and degrees. So salvation is not just one sort of monolithic thing that we arrive at. Salvation is a graded thing. And to the extent that we have practiced and we have understood and we have found wisdom about God, again, I emphasize, we have to bring God in. You cannot just say good acts. You have to bring God in, because God is the king. God is what is manifest there. And if you are not familiar with him in this world, it would be very difficult in that world to get that familiarity and that intimacy. So, to the extent that we practice and follow the correct path, it would be easier there, it would be higher stages. And of course, that is why we think that it's important to say what is right, what is wrong, what should we follow, what shouldn't we follow. We try to publicize, we try to proselytize faith, which we believe that is correct. Otherwise, if pluralism is, it means that everything is equal, why should we try to publicize Islam?
Sorry. Can I ask you this, but I'm sorry, I'm not taking somebody else's time. I met a preacher, a Christian preacher, one time in a mosaic program, where a mosaic program is where all faiths come together and talk about their understanding of a topic. And I asked a priest one day, says, you have a missionary effort throughout Africa and Asia to convert people to Christianity. Are you implying that other faiths are wrong? To that question, the Christian minister said that indirectly we are saying that our faith is the correct one and you all are wrong. But I think his personal opinion is we are wrong. We should not be pushing it to that extent, because at the end of the day, it creates conflict between religions, condemning one faith, because today our practical experience in Africa, they are going around building churches and condemning Muslims in where Muslim majority are there. So when we do this, the problem I'm seeing in a practical world, the religions are fighting to take that position because they believe they are right. And
now, this is absolutely right. However, this is a completely different issue.
But it's part of the religious pluralism.
We'll come to that. Yeah. Actually, when we talked about should God have different religions, why should God have different religions, we know that the Quran says, Inna ad-din inda Allah al-Islam. The only religion with God is Islam. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever follows any faith but Islam, it will not be accepted from them. Now, what do you think about this?
Go ahead.
It seems very obvious. There's only one God. The only religion acceptable to him is Islam. Therefore, all the religions you reveal all over the world are Islam.
Are Islam, or where Islam?
We're Islam.
Where Islam? Yeah. Where Islam? This is because if we say they are Islam, because then they are very different. 15 minutes, yeah. Very different from each other. So okay. Okay.
There's no other God.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
At the end of the beginning of the day, they all come from him. But there's another point you made. I really wanted to ask you about this. You said that an insane person cannot enter paradise.
Yes.
Do you mean somebody who's mentally retarded, or do you mean insane?
No,
what do you mean by
I meant insane in that world, not in this world. Of course, all insane people in this world would enter paradise, but to a
what do you mean by that?
To a certain degree.
Insane people? What do you mean by that?
People who don't have any taklif, mental capacity, okay, to realize what is right, what is wrong, okay? So they are not going to be punished, are they? Are they going to be punished because they don't realize what's right and what's wrong?
So what did you mean the first time when you said insane people?
Now, insane with regards to the wisdom which is needed to enter paradise in understanding God, okay? Now, if our wisdom is limited, and that wisdom comes from many things, especially from the intention of the heart, from the way we act in this world, that insanity in that world, the lack of wisdom, would not allow us to understand the concepts which are necessary for our being in paradise. Now, the insane people in this world, those who are mentally retarded, they are excused for what they do, isn't it? So, just like others who we say they are excused, they have a level of salvation which is different from those other people who, of course, fill in the different levels of paradise based on their wisdom. The wisdom is very, very important there. And, for example, children who die, what happens to them? From any faith. Now, we say all of them would go to paradise, isn't it? But in paradise, they do not live like mature people who have that wisdom of understanding God. Just like insane people in this world. They all go to paradise, but they do not live like mature people.
So what do you believe about Qasim ibn Hassan?
Qasim ibn Hassan?
Yes, who was a child when he died.
Yes.
What level will he be at? A child's level?
Yeah, yes, the child's level.
Are you sure?
Based on the wisdom. You see, some of the children are given a wisdom which is more than the grown-ups. Like, for example, Yahya alayhi salam. It says, آتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. We gave him wisdom or prophethood while he was a child. Or like Imam Jawad. Why do you say Qasim ibn Hassan? Why Imam Jawad? Not Imam Jawad, who was an imam at the age of 8. Now, their wisdom is beyond our wisdom. We are just talking about ordinary children, okay? Ordinary children die at the age of 5, 6. They don't know what's right, what's wrong. What happens to them? They go to paradise, but they wouldn't live like mature people there. Mature people who have understood, who have acted, who have manifested their faith or manifested their soul, of course they would have a different sort of life in paradise.
Okay, excuse me, I think we'll have to move on. We have about 10 minutes before we take a break for Salat, because we need about 10-15 minutes to do the small things. For the next 10 minutes, Dr. Bahmanpour, if you could present your thoughts the next 10 minutes, and we take a break for Salat and lunch, and then we are going to see if there are enough, how many, can I get a sense, how many, if we continue after lunch and Salat, how many can stay here? How many cannot stay? It's okay. How many cannot stay? Oh, so there is...
I think we have to wrap it up now.
Wrap it up, yeah. Okay, so that means... till we need to do wuzu, everything. 1 o'clock salat, right? So 15 minutes? 15 minutes? Oh yes, okay. Yeah, we're going to break and we don't need time for 5 minutes to the bathroom. Okay, so we got 15 minutes. So remember, how many, on what question are you, Dr. Bahmanpour, right now?
We are on first question.
On the first. So can you speed up and maybe you should ask less question. Let him, let's capture his
why
thoughts.
should God have different religions? Well, we discussed it. There is only one religion of God. And that one religion has been preached by different prophets. Now, the name is not important. Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. You know, these names were not there at all. I mean, Christianity. How did they choose the name Christianity? When Jesus came, there was no name for his religion. Afterwards, many years after his ascension, their followers said, okay, what's the best name for our faith? They said, to differentiate it from Judaism, they said, okay, it's Christianity. So we don't have a Christian faith. We don't have a Jewish faith. We have Musa alayhi salam coming and preaching Islam. We have Isa alayhi salam coming and preaching Islam. There's only one faith. And therefore, that is why the Quran says, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغَ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever follows any faith other than Islam, which is preached by all the prophets, is not acceptable. Now you may say, what about the modern Christianity? Now, okay, according to Islam, the followers of Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, say Islam because they get confused with that one religion. We believe that there are deviations here. And that's why the Prophet had to come and rectify those deviations. So there's only one religion of God. That one religion is preached by all the prophets. And we have to have a good understanding of that one religion. If we say the Jews and Christians deviated from that one religion, it doesn't mean that Muslims have not deviated from that one religion, isn't it? ISIS, are they Muslims? Are they on the right path?
In their eyes they are.
Yeah.
In their own eyes they are.
No, in their own eyes, everyone is on the right path, okay? But, I mean, do we really think that they have more right to salvation than Christians?
I don't think they care what we think or not. They think they are right, and that's the end of it.
No, what do we think?
But I don't think that matters to them.
No, what matters it matters to us. It matters to us now here.
But according to them, and that's why they keep going along the same path.
Yeah. But, okay. According to them, they are on the right path. The Jews at the time of the Prophet also thought that they were on the right path. The Christians also thought they were on the right path. That's why, for example, even after Mubahala, they did not accept, okay? But the point is these are all deviations from that one religion of God. I mean, Sunnis and Shias, okay? They think differently, but they both cannot be right. We have many things in common, but on those issues that we differ, like Imamah, for example, which is the main issue that we differ on Imamah, both of us cannot be right. One of it is right, one is right, one is wrong, okay? However, so the one which is wrong is deviation from that right path of God. There is only one right path. There are deviations. As I said, deviations doesn't mean that everyone who's deviated will go to hell. But there are deviations. So there is that one path. That's a different issue. Now, as someone who's just sitting outside, okay, you say both of them cannot be right, okay? Both of them may be wrong, okay? It's possible that both may be wrong, okay? But both of them cannot be right. So one may be right, one wrong. Or both of them may be wrong. But that one path of God, which is Islam, is one throughout the history. You refer to Surah Al-Anbiya. There's a very, very interesting thought-provoking idea in Surah Al-Anbiya. In Surah Al-Anbiya, God talks about past prophets, about Ibrahim alayhi salam, about Musa alayhi salam, about Ayub and others. Then at the end, coming to Jesus, coming to Mary, says, Inna hadihi ummatukum, this is your ummah. It's not only after the prophets. This, what has come from the beginning, from Ibrahim, from Nuh, from all the prophets, this is your ummah, this is your religion. Ummah here means religion. This is your religion. Inna hadihi ummatukum ummatan wahidah. It's only one faith. Only one faith. Now, whether we understand that one faith correctly or not, that's a different issue. Of course, we have to try to understand it correctly. However, there's only one faith. And then, what about these religions that we have? If there is only one ummah, one faith, what about these religions? The Quran says these are parties. Now, think about the concept of party. فَتَقَطَّعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ زُبُرًا كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرْحُونَ. Every party is happy with their faith. It doesn't say every religion. Every party. You see, now Shiism, Sunnism, Islam, Christianity, it has become like a party. Actually, we subscribe to a party. And then, you see, what's the meaning of party? I say, what do we believe about such things? Okay, our ulama know. Okay, I subscribe to whatever our ulama know. It's a party, isn't it? It's a party. I subscribe to whatever the party says. Of course, we have no other choice. This is how things develop. However, Allah says, I do not acknowledge these as religions. I only say these are parties. Every party is happy with what they believe in. However, the ummah, the millah, the faith is one from the beginning to the end. Where does this leave us with religious pluralism? Can anyone say? If we believe that God has one religion only, preached by every prophet, where does this lead us with religious pluralism?
Inclusive.
No, we will not tolerate the other group.
Or we tolerate them, do not believe that. We do not believe that they are right. And we tolerate ourselves as well. You see, because we really don't know whether we are following that one right path, we tolerate them. Yes.
If you look at Islam as submission to the will of God, then there are others who are submitters who are believers, so that automatically includes religious pluralism. If we don't look at Islam with a capital I as a dogma and just my religion, and as submitters and believers, so this would be...
I really doubt if Islam only means submitting to the will of God, that one religion of God. Otherwise, it didn't need all these corrections. You see? I mean, you just submit to the will of God no matter what you believe in or what you do. Okay? It's more than just submitting to the will of God. We have to have a correct understanding of God as well. That's why the main force of Islamic faith is Tawheed. You have to believe in one God. Now, if I say, okay, I submit to the will of God, but I believe in 2, 3 gods, for example. I submit to all their wills. Okay? That is not acceptable. It is, of course, submitting to the will of God, but we need to have the right understanding as well, the right path as well, know what to follow. And this is why the Imams become very important in our faith, because they show the right interpretation of faith, the right understanding of the Quran, of the Sunnah of the Prophet, and that's why it becomes very important here. So with regards to religious pluralism, what I would say is that based on the Quran, there's only one religion. All other religions have somehow are manifestations of rejecting that one religion, which is kufr and shirk and all these things, rejecting that one religion, or adopting different understanding of that one religion, which makes us sort of parties. And especially in one surah says that those to whom we have given the book would believe in you, because it's the same religion. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ مِنَ الْأَحْزَابِ. However, those parties who call themselves faiths, who reject you, فَالنَّارُ مَوْعِدُهُ. They go to hell, because they are parties, they're not faiths anymore. Those parties will go to hell. Those to whom we have given the book, they will accept you. So religious pluralism here means that we accept these deviations from that one path, and by deviations I don't mean religions other than Islam. No, even inside Islam, this Islam that we have deviations from that one religion of God. Those deviations, we believe, of course we don't know whether we are really on that one right path, but those deviations we believe that either are excused or are tolerated, or if they really know what they are doing, they will be punished. So the one right path is what the Quran believes in, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Any?
We don't know what the right path is.
Well,
Yeah,
the Quran.
That right path is in the Quran, we believe, but whether we understand the Quran correctly or not is a different issue.
No, but he says that I have made this Quran easy for you 4 times in the chapter.
I didn't find it easy. Yeah, of course. Easy for us if it depends on purification of the heart and such things. Yeah.
Can I ask a final question?
Go ahead, yeah.
You know, Allah sent 124,000 prophets to different nations, right? So He meant all those nations to believe in that particular
One path, yeah.
Then He sent Rasulullah, the final message. Now, we are told that Rasulullah came for the whole humankind.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Rasulullah meant to change each and every person in the world, Muslim, to change to Islam? And if he did, then why do we say that he came for the whole humankind?
Yeah, for the whole humankind. This brings us to that issue of guidance. I think in one of our discussions we had that God should have guided everyone. Yes, of course, God indiscriminately guides everyone, but whether everyone accept that guidance or not is a different issue. Okay, the Prophet indiscriminately preached the message of God in Mecca, for example. But Abu Lahab and Abu Sufyan had a different take of it than, for example, Hamza and Abu Zar. They had a different take of it. They were equally guided, but they did not equally receive that guidance. Eventually, that one right path should be accepted by everyone. That doesn't mean by force, of course. That doesn't mean that we have to go and conquer the world. But that means that this message, this path, is to reach everyone. And that is why we say we try to make this message to, first of all, to learn it ourselves, and then to make it reach every quarter of the world. And of course, who accepts it, who rejects it, is not in the hand of the Prophet, let alone us. Okay? It's not in the hand of the Prophet who accepts or who rejects. The most important thing is that this should reach all people who are on this earth. Now, we know that in the process many people are deprived of it, many people do not receive it. Even the past 4,000 prophets, I'm adding 1,000 now, 124,000 prophets, their message did not reach everywhere. Now, what about those people? They are excused. What happens to them? There is justice there. We don't know, but they are excused.
Thank you, Dr. Bahmanpour. As a last point, before you wrap it up, and Aziz, there's not much time. Shabir, maybe you could... Okay, go ahead then.
Sorry, very finally, I mean, you now made it very clear, I think, that in terms of question 5, for instance, or indeed for Islam to question 5 read, does the Quran accept religious pluralism?
It's now very clear that, based on what we've discussed, that it does not accept religious pluralism. So, and that Islam doesn't accept it. But
in the meaning of tolerance, it accepts it.
In the meaning of tolerance,
yeah.
But in terms of saying that there is only one religion, all other faiths are different, and understanding that, and that they're just parties, and that these parties and that Islam tolerates these deviations from the truth, right? How do we reconcile then? How do we reconcile the fact that our faith and our holy book does not recognize religion? But how do we recognize that? How do we reconcile the fact that we have to live in a religiously pluralistic society at the same time? How do we reconcile the two?
Yeah, it's very easy. We cannot force people to faith. We cannot convince everyone to accept.
No compulsion to religion.
No compulsion is possible. That means when it says La ikraha fi din, it means it is not possible. Not that you shouldn't do it. It is not possible to force anyone to faith. Even the Prophet, so much that he was eager to at least his relatives that he loved them, to bring them to faith. Quran says, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You cannot guide anyone you wish. We guide people. The only thing you have to do is you have to expose them to what you believe is the truth. And this is what all religions do. They try to expose people to what they think is right. Now, in a multicultural, multi-religious, pluralistic society, what we have to do, we have to understand is that we cannot force people to our faith. The only thing is that we expose them to what we believe is true. And actually, it's very good. If we have a free society, it's very good. We say what we believe in, they say what they believe in. And then, of course, the truth would show itself whether we want to accept. Now, the truth would prevail if people want to accept it. If they don't want to accept it, it doesn't prevail, yeah.
And the Quranic injunction that says, do not befriend Jews and Christians.
Yeah.
For fear that you will become like one of them. Isn't that contrary to living in a society that promotes peaceful coexistence?
I think many of these verses are taken out of their context. Many of these verses. I mean, when, for example, Muslims were attacked by Jews in Medina, and some of the Muslims in a clandestine way had relations with them and helped them with information. Of course, the Quran says, do not take them as your friends. You think that they are your friends, they talk to you in that way, but they are actually your enemies. But the prime verse, which is our guidance here, is not about Jews and Christians, about the mushrikun. In Surah Mumtahana, one of the companions of the Prophet revealed a secret of the Prophet's mobilization towards Mecca to Meccans, because he had families there. He told them, be on your guard, Prophet is coming. Now, the Quran, of course, says you did a very wrong thing, because we are now in war, and you revealed the secrets of the war to them. Then that prime verse is this: لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم. Allah is not telling you that do not befriend with those who didn't fight you in your faith and did not move you out of your land. The only thing that Allah says is that those who fight against you, do not befriend with them, because then that is, of course, a betrayal of your own faith. That, I think, is the standard. If they are not fighting us with regards to our faith, even if they are fight us with regards to other things, it's okay to befriend with them. But if they fight and want to kill us because we are Muslims, then of course we cannot befriend them.
Yeah. Okay, I think the time has come. I'm going to ask the President, Aziz, to come and say a few words as a closing remarks.
couldn't help sitting in the back out there. There was one word that kept coming out all the time. All the time it kept coming up right from the beginning of the discussions. And then the audacious Saeed, he says, how many of you are following the religion because of your family? I started to put up my hand out there and I said, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't want to be the only one. The one word that was coming up there, and you were just inferring to, is la ikraha fi din. There is no compunction. Why would they be? قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. Right? So that one word that kept coming up, I'm sitting in the back out there and listening, is the truth. When the truth has been manifested. I honor you for being here on your Saturday, the first day of the snow, the flurries out there, God's blessings. It's those fine petals that are flowing on the ground. And you to invest it, hopefully it has been one of an investment that will pay dividends. We were really hoping that we would have had more people to be here, because the topic, after deliberation, to come up to look at and see, you know, about pluralism. What does Islam have to say about it? What are the other religions has to say it? It's a very, very timely topic, because given the conditions that we have got, the amount of innocent lives that are being indiscriminately lost, is to tool us to be able to be looking and standing up. The words that came out in the back out there, appreciation, tolerance, that none of that would be possible unless we are tooled. And so for that, Saeed Bahmanpour, we thank you. We thank you very much. And I want to acknowledge Raza for the time that he has put in putting up the questions and even moderating this. I really, really, truly believe, and I'm hopeful, that it has been worth your time and worth the investment. So for that, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Saeed, I want to make sure that the translation is done right. I will leave it with you, please. May I? ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب.
Inshallah, Ilahi Amin. Ya Allah, do not deviate our hearts after you have guided us, and grant us your mercy. You are the most giving. Inshallah.
Ahsant. God bless you all. Thank you.